Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we've got a bit of a news roundup for you. We're going to be covering the possible return to professional play for the very popular streamer and ex-Selfless DPS player Dafran, the new Brigitta Shield Bash jump tech, the controversy surrounding the former Boston Uprising coach Huk's tweets about the possibility of there being no Canadian players on either of the Overwatch League's two Canadian expansion teams, and finally we'll be taking a look at a Twitter conversation between the Overwatch League pros Dante and EQO surrounding the subject of an SR reset for Overwatch's competitive mode. So we've got quite a lot to get through, so let's just crack on. Right, so first things first, Dafran might be making his way back to pro Overwatch. According to various sources including Deserto, the Overwatch blogger Aaron Halo Brown, as well as King Michael, and crucially Dafran himself, the player might have finally decided to put his hat back in the ring. Now when Halo first reported on it, it was just a rumour. Dafran was apparently reaching out for opportunities at the contenders level or even possibly with the Atlanta expansion team. Michael then later added to the story on Twitter saying, "Sources, I do have confirmation Dafran has been reaching out to multiple academy teams. Don't take this with a pinch of salt because it's true. Dafran has contacted multiple academy teams with interest in playing." Perhaps most crucially, Dafran himself said on stream that he might be joining the Overwatch League and that when he gets news he'll let his fans know. Which, if you are a fan of him, and I do count myself in that number, is obviously pretty exciting. But what makes this story really interesting is Dafran's rather colourful and checkered past when it comes to Overwatch. I mean, to be fair, that's putting it pretty mildly. A lot of people see him as a very controversial figure. It's very easy, for instance, to forget just how good he was for Selfless Gaming back before the Overwatch League was even a thing. That team had a number of famous players and streamers in it. Among his teammates, for example, were Emong and Sinatraa. They were a fantastic team to watch, and although they didn't invent the aggressive spawn trapping style that they became known for, they were at the time one of the only teams that didn't get farmed by the old Rogue lineup. Now they never did quite manage to beat Rogue's triple DPS setup in a series, but the games were always super close and massively entertaining. But that era is also the same time period where we see Dafran start to get in a bit of trouble. His tendency to troll in matchmaking was quite widely known, but a few key incidents forced Blizzard's hand, including a few where not only did he throw games on stream, but he also encouraged his viewers to do the same. And he was actually banned for Contenders Season 0 and Season 1, effectively ending his professional Overwatch career. Now all of that behaviour sounds pretty toxic, and I have to be honest, there's no real dressing it up, it kinda is. But in his Twitlonger statement from July 2017, Dafran tried to explain his actions as a desperate attempt to get out of the pro Overwatch scene. He said, "I wanted to get out for a long time. Competing and scrimming made me very depressed and bored. The only thing that kept me going was streaming and enjoying the fame." And it's no surprise then that after he effectively retired, he went on to maintain one of the most popular Overwatch streams. Now the thing about Dafran, at least from my personal perspective, is that although some of his behaviour is absolutely indefensible, as a stream personality I do find him quite engaging. He can be quite charming and he has quite a lot of charisma. He can be funny and personable, and obviously he's extremely talented at the game. And I think the reason why rumours of his return to pro Overwatch gain traction is because there's a sense of a missed opportunity, of talent wasted. Now admittedly, he does largely have only himself to blame, and I totally understand why some people think he's toxic and aren't willing to give him a second chance. But I'm not one of them. I hope he's matured enough to get past his previous mistakes and really bring his considerable talent to bear. He wouldn't be the first person who's very young, very talented, and under a lot of pressure to make some missteps. Now being realistic about the practicality of his return, Overwatch has changed an incredible amount since the last time he played professionally. So it makes a bit more sense to me that he join an Overwatch League Academy team instead of going directly into the league. I could be wrong, but in most sports you don't just bring a player back from the wild and throw them into the first team. All Premier League football teams, for example, have reserve teams that they use to bed in their players and get them used to competing again. This, I think, is the most likely outcome if any of the organisations do decide to give him a second chance, which for the reasons we've explained in this video isn't guaranteed anyway. You guys will have to let me know what you think about this whole story in the comment section below. Are you a Dafran fan and interested to see what he's capable of now, or do you think that his previous behaviour was just so toxic he actually doesn't deserve that second chance? Moving on, we're going to cover that new outrageous Brigitta mobility tech found by Arek2597 and his friend CampyOW. Through a combination of using her shield bash and her rocket flail abilities, Brigitta Brigitta is capable of travelling much further than just a shield bash on its own. Oh great, the character that can do everything can now do even more. Well yes, at least for the moment. I don't think it should come as a surprise to anyone that Blizzard are extremely likely to patch this out of the game. We've seen it previously with her shield bash super jumps, as well as other heroes like Doomfist, who at one point could use his seismic slam to perform mobility miracles and traverse maps much faster than intended. Now despite how good Doomfist is at the moment and how often he kills me, I'm still a little bit sore about that example, and maybe this is completely biased of me, but I won't be the least bit sorry when this new Brigitta tech gets taken out. A shield, insta-kills, healing, armor pack saving everything I'm trying to kill. She doesn't need to be able to lunge across the universe at me as well. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but my advice is enjoy it while you can, Brigitta players. I don't think it's going to be around for that much longer. Now moving on, we're going to be talking about a Twitter exchange between Huk, who is now president of gaming for the Craft Group after having worked with the Boston Uprising in a coaching capacity, and Scott Tester, or BearHANDS, who used to work for the NYXL. Now Huk's initial tweet that sparked all this drama off was this: "I will be so disappointed if both Canadian Overwatch League teams are all Korean. Maybe I'm biased, but I feel like Canada has a lot of talent and it would be a big letdown, at least to me personally." To which BearHANDS replied, "Really? Aren't you a Canadian that's working for an American team? Would you be disappointed if both Canadian teams had French rosters? Or is it specifically South Koreans that you're discriminating against?" Now those are some strong words, and I do think personally saying that Huk was being discriminatory is a bit heavy-handed. Now this exchange went on for quite a while, and what's quite funny is that Huk isn't actually Canadian. He's an American citizen who grew up in the US. That confusion got cleared up eventually, but really I think the core of the argument is wanting to see top-tier Canadian talent, of which there are some inarguable examples, on either of the Canadian teams discriminatory against other players from other regions. I think the water's a bit murky for me on this one. I can kind of see both sides. I think it's a practical reality that local fans will identify more with local players, at least as far as them being Canadian on a Canadian team, but there is also the point that these teams should probably just sign the best players irrespective of where they hail from. And seeing as most of the top tier talent in Overwatch hails from South Korea, that might make the most sense from a team performance standpoint. Just to be clear, I don't think Huk is being discriminatory by expressing a personal preference. He didn't say, for example, "I want no Koreans on my Canadian team." You guys will have to let me know how you feel about this, especially if you're a Canadian viewer. I mean, just personally, I'm English and didn't actually root for the London Spitfire, but that wasn't because the roster was all Korean. My favourite team was the NYXL, because one, they had my favourite player in Jonak, but also two, they had this cool, almost bad boy-like swagger. Big Boss Pine, all that stuff. So it just goes to show you, nationality doesn't always have to have a huge bearing on who you support. At least in my case, this example of one. Like I said, Canadians, to the comment section. The final story we're going to cover today is a very interesting Twitter conversation started by EQO from the Philadelphia Fusion surrounding the topic of a possible SR reset. EQO had this to say: "Would love to see a skill rating reset for the next competitive season, restricting the SR people can get placed at and making it at most 3K. I would like to think that if enough of us voice our opinion, it will lead to changes, and maybe one day we can make ranked great again." Now the reason for him suggesting that is, he doesn't think it's that rewarding to place top 20 regardless of your placement's wins or losses. Now an SR reset has long been a popular point of discussion for the community. I think mostly because a lot of players feel like they're trapped in the rank that they currently find themselves in, and they like the idea of a fresh start without having to buy another account. Now I think most people's perception is that they would actually place higher than they currently are if an SR reset happened. Which might be true in some cases. Players can certainly improve a lot from when they first started playing the game. I know from interviewing EQO, he started in Platinum, for example. But I have to keep it real for you guys. I don't think placing higher would be the reality for a lot of players if a reset did occur. It's quite common for people to cognitively think that they're better at something than they actually are. We've all heard the memes, "I'm only silver because of my teammates." Well, in my case, I'm diamond because I belong there for the most part. We as players always assume that any MMR or SR reset would actually benefit us. But I'm telling you right now, there would be a lot of people that would actually place lower than their current rank if this were to happen. Not everybody, obviously, but a sizable chunk nonetheless. I think this is what Dante of the San Francisco Shock was referring to when he replied to EQO's tweet with this: "I'm pretty sure most casuals will baby rage about placing lower, and Blizzard favors the casual community in decisions like this, so GG go next." To be honest, here's what I think is a fair representation of what would happen. Some people would benefit and be ranked higher, some people would lose out and be ranked lower, but the vast majority of us would be placed in exactly the same place. If they put a cap on how high you could place, like EQO said, then after a month it would have all naturally adjusted anyway. I totally understand the desire for the placements to be more consequential and for the ladder to mean more, but if you get me started on the topic of what's wrong with ranked, we'll be here forever. Just quickly, I think the role distribution in matches and rank accuracy needs looking at before we even start to think about an SR reset, but that is just one person's opinion. You guys will have to let me know down below what you think about it. Do you think you'd be one of the lucky few placing a rank or two higher than you currently are? Or are you drearily accepting of your place in the grand picture just like I am? And that's about it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,